You're like a train and you're going from one place to the other. That's life. And people come in and out of your train compartment for a short duration, for a long duration. They're in and out. But you are the train and you have to get from one place to the other, which is the only constant that we know. So, what are we trying to hold on to the people that are coming in and out? And that includes family, it includes friends, the family you choose, the family that choose you, the ones you're born to. It doesn't
Mm.
matter. This is a solitary journey, and the purpose of it is to be joyous. And that's only you hold the key to that.
I believe that each and every one of us has the power within ourselves to create the life that we really want. And I want to help give you the tools to make that happen. I'm Danica Patrick, and I'm pretty intense. Today on the podcast is the beautiful Priyanka Chopra Jonas. She has a new book out called Unfinished. She's a really deep soul. She has an inner knowing. Her inner compass is just so well calibrated that she came into this life with a head start. Like, she just gets it, and she has wonderful perspective. And I think it's through people like her that we then can be inspired to live more like that person, to be happier, to have a higher opinion of ourselves or the world itself, and more autonomy in this world, which is what leads to happiness, because all we have is ourselves. So we talk a lot about that, and I'm leaving this conversation feeling super inspired, and I have a feeling you will too. So please enjoy today's episode with Priyanka. In Indian culture, are things very spicy?
Yeah, Indian food is very spicy, predominantly spicy. It can be made without spice as well, but the natural nature of things is that it would be. It's an explosion of flavors. So various different masalas, various different things always make towards a really full flavor. Like, that's where my love for hot sauce actually started, was when I started traveling outside of India, and food outside of India was always so bland for me. It was just like boring. So, like, just like roast chicken and vegetables, I was like,
Ugh.
hot sauce came in handy, and that's where I started loving it.
So do you travel with hot sauce?
I usually do have hot sauce everywhere. It makes all my, yeah, it makes, like, our dining table will always have a spread of at least 4 or 5. And I collect them from different parts of the world wherever I travel. The Caribbean, definitely. But like, I always get a hot sauce from whichever country I go to.
Man. Like, what would you, I mean, you've lived in so many different places. This idea of home is a concept that I think about a lot, just because I remember, in the last few years, people would ask me, where do you live? And I was like, where do I pay taxes? Or like, where was I born? Or where do I own homes? Like, what do you mean? Where do I spend the most time?
Right.
Do you feel like you have a home?
I did feel like you, exactly, for many years. I think for the last about 15 at least years, I've not lived in a home that I owned. I've moved around. I've lived in like rentals. I've lived in hotels. I've, just been a nomad because I went wherever my work took me.
Yeah.
But after I got married, I was really craving sort of just a home. And I also wanted to know where all my shit was, honestly, like my shoes, if with different places around the world, or storage rooms. And I was like, oh, these shoes, the red shoes are in Mumbai, or they're in New York right now. And that's, it's just really annoying. So this year during quarantine, actually, we moved into our house. It's like the first house where I've put roots down, actually, in LA, after years, I think, of being completely nomadic. So now home as a concept, I understand. But I didn't for a very long time.
I can definitely relate to that. What do you love about being home now? And then, like, what do you miss about the nomadic life? Because I feel like I have a home, but it's funny. I've been traveling a lot. I've been gone for a month. And so, there's an aspect of me, because I'm single for the first time in 16 years. And I'm also feeling nomadic in that way, that I can just pick up and go, and I don't have to answer to anything or anyone other than my sister. She likes to keep me accountable, but other than that, so like there's a duality happening with me right now, but there's a fun aspect to both. So now that you like have a home, what's the best part about that?
I think just one, knowing where all my stuff is, and realizing that, there's actually a real joy in having a place for everything.
Mm.
Everything that you own has a spot, and it's like, this is where my shoes go, this is where my toothbrush goes, this is where, my napkins go, or whatever. And I didn't see the merit in that when you live out of a suitcase at all. There's such a chaos to that, which is beautiful too. But the sort of ease and comfort of not living in clutter is sort of freeing almost. I feel very liberated at having a house. It's full of my dogs and friends and family, and it's my space. And there's a sense of stability in that, which I didn't know I was craving.
Mm.
And what I did miss, because last year I spent almost 6-7 months at home, which was a great joy, being able to build your home together yourself, especially because my both me and my husband, our independent careers are crazy. Like, we're always in different parts of the world, so that was a real blessing. But what I missed at that time was hotel rooms and room
What?
service and housekeeping.
Do you like cooking?
No, I hate it.
That makes sense.
But I love the little chocolates on your bed. I
Oh,
love having a menu and being able to order from the menu, and comes to your room while you're in your pajamas. So I was suddenly like, it was so funny. I was craving that.
eating in a robe is so nice. And you know what I also
Yes.
love about room service is if I order a lot of things, I'm not judged. Or if I'm in like
Well,
a
or at
restaurant,
least they won't tell you. At least they won't tell you they're judging.
I'll just say it's for two, and they'll be like, they
There
won't
you
know
go.
there's not somebody else coming, and just two
That's
meals.
a good idea. Yeah, I should be that. Like, I should do that. I usually feel really guilty when I'm ordering a bunch of stuff. I never thought that I could actually say two and they wouldn't know.
You said two waters, a free water. Two,
Yeah,
yeah, you can have extra silverware for that apple that you need to cut in the morning. I mean, it's just
later or in the middle of the night. It's a great idea.
yeah, yeah. There you go. And that trick of the trade. Now that you live in a house. Yeah. Was there anything emotional that came up when you like had that move-in moment, when you did you hit like a point in time where you thought, where you felt almost like the pattern of being gone all the time was uncomfortable?
Yeah, the first time I took a flight out of LA after being at home for about 6-7 months,
Mm.
I didn't want to go. I was terrified.
Huh.
I was um I was really emotional. I was filming a movie and I was going to Europe, and I was super emotional of, having to leave my dogs, my husband, my like stuff, my home. I sat in almost every room for the last 2 days of the house, just because I was feeling really, like, I really, really felt such a sense of gratitude and joy for the 6 months, which could have been so daunting, which could have been just terrible, and it was terrible for a lot of people in the world. But that space just made me feel safe and
Mm.
comfortable. And you know COVID wasn't gone anywhere when I was going to work in October, so it was like leaving your safe cocoon.
How long were you leaving for a long time too, probably?
Oh yeah, I left in October, and now I'm in London, and I'm here for a year.
Oh my God. Are you working in London or are you
Yeah.
living in London?
Yeah, I was working. I am working in London. I finished at the production of another movie, and I'm starting a TV show now for Amazon. It's called the Amazon TV show is called Citadel, and it's with the Russo brothers, and it's phenomenal. It's got Richard Madden and some amazing um, cast that's come together in the movie, and it's going to be sick. We're filming it in, we were supposed to film it around the world, but technology has reached such an amazing place that we can
Yeah.
manage both.
Mm.
But yeah, we'll be filming that to the end of the year. Very excited about
Mm.
it.
What do you think about London?
No, I actually really love London. It's really tragic to see it the way it is. It's in full lockdown right now, and no one's allowed to go anywhere. Essential services are allowed and filming is allowed. So we can go to set and back.
Yeah, I had a flight going somewhere else that was through London, and it got canceled. Like I booked it a couple weeks ago, and it got canceled already. And it's for next month.
Strictly shut down right now.
That's nuts. The world is crazy.
I mean, it's so just scary, you know. I've been in a very massive bubble for the last year between, you know, being very just staying hunkered down at home when I was in LA to even being on a film set. Being on a film set is like worse because you can't do anything. You can't meet anyone. Because you know, if something happens like to me, then the
Yep.
movie shuts down for a really
Yep.
long time.
Yep.
So I like
Isolated.
actors are fully isolated. I've in fact kidnapped my mother and I've made her stay here. She's been dying to go back to Mumbai. She was here for the holidays and now I'm just like, no, don't leave. It's really daunting, you know. Like going for me, even going on a set, knowing that everyone on the set is tested almost every day or every second day. It's just all of it feels scary. Like when I go out for a walk, you know, you walk away when somebody's walking past like beside you and it's just it's such a weird thing. And I'm very curious. I think that the mental health toll that this year is going to take or COVID's going to take on people is something that we're not really prepared for or we haven't thought about as much.
I fear it's becoming the norm, you know, like people, like it used to be more shocking to look out and see people in masks. And now if you don't have one on, people look at you and they're like, you know, it's becoming so much more normal. And I don't know, my intuition tells me that's the point. I don't know. It's this fear state is just so scary. And I such compassion for the people, especially like, I feel like I've been very fortunate that I don't have a lot of people that I have to worry about as much. Like I don't have a set, I don't have a team, I don't have a group, I don't have older, you know, parents or grandparents that I'm seeing all the time. But for those that do, man, it's an accelerated issue beyond just going to the grocery store.
It totally is. I mean, especially when we were in LA, my husband is type 1 diabetic and that makes him susceptible. You know, my mom's older, I have asthma. We were extremely paranoid and careful. So hence the level of fear being even more when you actually have to go out into the real world, but also craving it. I miss being able to just do dinner, you know, just like everyone else is, I'm sure. But can you imagine what makes me feel better is imagine when the influenza or the Spanish flu was happening, they didn't even have the internet. At least we can look at each other and, you know, FaceTime and Zoom.
That's true.
Can you imagine living at that time when there was a pandemic?
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, it's funny, I didn't really think about it from that perspective, but I did look back at the last pandemic being that one and look how long it went for. And it was kind of almost a year and a half. And so, you know, I don't know, I've heard other things that this sort of scenario, this dynamic in the world could last longer than that, just for other reasons. But I mean, especially given the fact that, you know, your mood and your attitude spills over into your work and into other people. And there are things that you do that help you feel better or like elevate your mood. I mean, are there certain things that you take? Are there certain practices you have like meditation or yoga or working out? Or is there anything you do? Or is there a mantra?
I do. I have gotten really consistent with working out. I never had that kind of consistency before. And now I crave it. I need it. I'm aware of my wellness. I'm eating cleaner. I'm taking care of my immune system, making sure I have my vitamins, making sure I have, you know, ginger lemon tea, which is always good to have.
I swear that's what this is. It's not coffee.
But I think just looking inward was very helpful during this time, instead of, you know, looking for feeling good outwards. I spent a lot of time on healing myself. That's hence writing the book. Like the book for me was really a process of healing. Like there are things I've talked about that I've forgotten that, you know, popped up in my memory because I was writing a memoir. And because also I was in a vulnerable place, I guess, just like everyone in the world, feeling, the weight of the world, it really sort of helped me feel a sense of pride for what I've achieved, a sense of pride for the life that I've lived, a sense of ease, um, and, calm and really gratitude.
Mm.
It was, the book was a really, really healing experience for me.
What were some of those things in the book that surprised you, that came through?
Just like talking about my childhood and how that contributed to the person that I am today, especially like the travel and what my parents stood for. I also think like looking at my struggles through my career, sort of dissecting my failures, talking about my grief, sorrows, rejections, sadnesses. I've never been an open person as an actor, but if 90% of my life can be for public consumption because I chose a public job, okay. But 10% will always be mine. And I've always been very protective of sort of my feelings and my friends and my family, of course, I speak to about, all those innermost thoughts, but I've never like put it out or spoken about it even in interviews. To me, this is like the in between interviews book. Everything that I have not publicly spoken is in there. I think that surprised me. I didn't expect myself to be ready to be so open.
I feel like I've like excavated my childhood, like inner child healing. I've explored those aspects of my childhood that were limiting in my expansion and in my happiness. And I went back to Indiana, which I think I read that you lived in Indianapolis or Indiana, right?
I did. I went to high school in Indianapolis.
Oh,
so funny.
So I went back to Indiana for the summer with my family, and I was, very broken and vulnerable from, heartbreak. And I went back and I was like wanting them to apologize for certain things and admit certain things. And my therapist ended up telling me nobody holds the keys. And I was like, oh, shit. That means I have to do it all. And I think that's the sad thing about like that sort of expansion, is that it's really up to you, and that no matter what anyone says, it's really up to you whether or not you can sort of excuse or forgive or move on or choose to look at someone or something in a different way. So I'm curious if you're willing to share just some of those things, because my parents are wonderful, and I never thought like, oh, my childhood had issues that were going to come to the surface. But I think we're similar in a sense that, you're a very strong, opinionated, confident, articulate, intelligent woman. And, it's admitting that there are sometimes things that had happened in the past that limit us. And I'm just curious of what those things were, because, strong tries to be strong all the time, but at the end of the day, the vulnerability is where the progress is.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I've dedicated a big chapter in my book about this phase that I went through. I was also nursing my father's death, who was very, very close to me, my biggest champion, my biggest cheerleader. And he died very young at 63. And I went right back to work. I didn't deal with it. I didn't think about it. I also was nursing a heartache. I'd moved to America. I was in a new country. I didn't have any friends. I just left Mumbai and a thriving career there. And, starting right at the beginning with the TV show that I did called Quantico. And it was a very solitary time for me. And I didn't seek help. I should have, maybe. That period for me lasted a good 2 years, and it was a period of darkness. And, sadness is seductive. It pulls you closer. It's like Ka in the Jungle Book. It's like, trust me, come here. And it's so easy to wallow in self-pity and, think about what could have or what should have, or, what made me behave this way, and blaming myself or looking for a reason. And your therapist is very right. I think two things. What I did was I allowed myself to feel all the things. I cried. I stayed home. I didn't meet friends. I incubated for a long time. But all I did was work. Like, I went to work, and there was nothing else outside of that except me and my feelings. Um, I cut ties with people. And the second thing which I did, which really was helpful, was I, I didn't make it about anyone else. It didn't matter what happened to me, why I behaved a certain way. It didn't matter why the other person behaved a certain way. It didn't matter. It just mattered where I was going.
Mm.
I sort of let go myself of the burdens that I insisted on carrying. It's my journey. It has nothing to do with anyone else. You're born alone. You're going to die alone. And I believe that, and I opened the book with this because it was a big realization for me that, you're like a train, and you're going from one place to the other. That's life. And people come in and out of your train compartment for a short duration, for a long duration. They're in and out. But you are the train, and you have to get from one place to the other, which is the only constant that we know. So what are we trying to hold on to? The people that are coming in and out. And that includes family. It includes friends, the family you choose, the family that choose you, the ones you're born to. Doesn't matter. This is a solitary journey, and the purpose of it is to be joyous. And that's only you hold the key to that. And that doesn't mean you don't feel shitty and you shouldn't feel bad. But if you allow yourself to feel bad, and you allow yourself to feel something, and not always have to be tough and strong and make excuses or find reasons for behavior, whether that's good or bad according to you, I think it's just a sense of just letting it all go and focusing on today and how beautiful today is going to be and what you feel like doing today. Listening to your body, your mind, your heart is very important. Going easy on yourself.
Yeah. So true. So well said, and so wise to learn that lesson. Some people never learn that lesson.
Yeah, I know. And
learn that perception becomes reality. Some people never grow and evolve, and some people stay, as you so like beautifully said, sadness is seductive. Some people stay addicted and swirling in that sort of codependency of emotions that never lets them out. And to me, that's hell on earth. I think heaven and hell exist right here. They're in the moment that you can feel joy and elation and awe. And then they're also on the other side of things where it's sadness and lack and jealousy and, just anything that doesn't make you feel good. Do you have a spiritual practice or religious? I mean, what is?
I'm Hindu by religion, and but I'm more spiritual than religious. I believe I've been raised religious, of course, and on holidays like Diwali, and I'll do the pujas that I need to do, which are prayer ceremonies and stuff. And maybe every day I'll we have in Hinduism, we have like a tangible prayer thing that you can do, which is, you light an incense and you have little statues. So it's like, it's tangible, So I do that every couple of days whenever I can. But my relationship, I think, with God is of supreme belief. I really do believe that whatever your face of your faith is, it all leads to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Faith is, it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Faith is it's all taking you to that feeling, that larger, higher power, that can that explains the things that you can't explain. There's so much inexplicable in life that even science can't explain. And I believe that there is a higher power. I believe that there is something called destiny, and I believe in fate. But I also believe that we're the sum of our choices as our life goes along, and fate will put you in front of an opportunity, but it's up to us to recognize it and then to act upon it. And that, I think, is our purpose. But my spiritual senses having, a conversation. I started recently, actually, during quarantine. My husband and I started doing this, and I now do it with all my friends, and I'm going to do it with you too.
Oh, I love it.
5 things you're grateful for today. Today, not in life, not forever, but just today.
Oh, you mean do
If
it
you do
now?
that every day, yeah, just do it.
Coffee,
Mhm.
rain that's happening randomly in Arizona, which it never happens because it makes everything bloom
Wow.
and beautiful. Um, a platform that gives me an opportunity to speak to someone like you. A shelf full of books that I'm looking at that help expand my mind. And something that I actually was thinking last night that I thought I feel so fortunate for, and sometimes I just take it for granted because it's been so long, but just purely the means to do anything I want to do. I mean, I'm so fortunate. I just don't have that burden. And that's pretty unique. What
See,
about you?
isn't it amazing though?
Yeah.
I do that. Like, I'll randomly just ask friends or family or text, and it just puts you in such a place of gratitude, because there's so many things that if we start counting, we don't have.
Mm,
But if you start counting what you have, you'll see how much more you have than a lot of people. And that just puts life's balance in check
mm,
for me.
I like that.
Um, well, for me, would be my movie just came out. Really grateful for that. My book just came out. I'm really grateful for that. Being able to have a job at a time when, go to work at a time when, a lot of people are not being able to go to work. Um, Health, mine, my family, everyone's been healthy, safe, which is great. And, again, like being able to choose what I want to do in my life. I think I'm grateful for that every day.
To me, this puts you in a sort of more open state, a state of
Hmm.
receiving. I think they say that gratitude is sort of the ultimate sort of place to receive. Um, and I think about like a spiritual practice. Then it makes me kind of think about signs and synchronicities. And when you start to get open, then you start to see those things a little bit more easily, whether they be numbers or a certain person that you thought about pops in, they become synchronicities instead of coincidences, or perhaps nothing. I mean, I think when we're like so in our head and so in negative thoughts, it's hard to be present enough to notice the things going on around us. So I'm curious if you've had synchronicities in your life that have really like turned your life, or have jumped out at you, jobs, relationships, anything like that, that you can look at now and just say, that was meant for me.
My
I'm so
entire
glad I saw
career
it.
is like how it started. I did not think, I had no intention of being in the arts ever. I didn't think I could. I didn't think it was a job that real people do. No one in my family had ever been in entertainment. And I was like, that's like a specific kind of people. That's not me. I came from a very academic background. My parents were doctors. Everyone in my family, like a good Indian family, were like lawyers, engineers, doctors, academic. Um, and I was good at math and physics, and I was very fascinated with tech. So I wanted to get into that. But I'd come back to India after living in the US as a teenager. And when I moved back, my brother, who was 10 years old at that time, was kicked out of his room. So that because I was 16, my dad was like, well, she gets the room. Obviously, you're 10 years old, you're a boy, it's fine. I naturally didn't argue with that. He was really mad at that. And I think we used to always watch the Miss India pageant at home, just like family, you watch like Miss India, Miss World, whatever. And I don't know what his 10-year-old mind was thinking, but he saw an ad for that in one of the magazines that my mom reads. And I'd just gotten some photos, mall shots just for fun, like hand on face, soft focus, them taken.
Yeah.
And he brings those to my mom and he's like, I think we should send her for this pageant because then she'll move to Mumbai. And my mom, to appease him, sent those pictures. I got selected for Miss India, and you give me a competition, and I'm gonna like run. and I treated it like a race. But I'd never modeled before. I'd never walked around in like stilettos. Forget wearing stilettos, sari, and jewelry and hair. Um, but I learned really quick. I won that pageant. I went for Miss World. I won that pageant at 18. I started getting movie offers. I'd never been on a movie set before. Forget knowing that you have to read lines, stand on a mark, have 400 people watching you, and yet be able to perform and all the things. Like, I was thrown into a big budget movie with big actors back in India and kind of had to learn. And I always felt like I had this invisible sort of push in the direction of the arts. And I just felt so compelled to take charge of it, even though I didn't have any knowledge of it. And that to me feels like, a crazy thing that the universe has conspired for me to be where I am today for so many reasons. If that hadn't happened, if my brother at 10 years old didn't want to kick me out of the room, I probably wouldn't have been here.
This is that power. Like, to me, this is the inner knowing. This is like, also maybe something that you believed. Is this something that you truly just believed?
I think I believe in excellence. And I believe even if I wasn't in the arts, even if I went into engineering or wherever I went, I would strive for excellence. So it just happened to be that I was in the arts, and I said, all right, I'm going to put my head down. I always make a couple of plans. I have plan A, plan B, plan C. I never put all my eggs in one basket. I have multiple verticals I work in because I'm not someone who'd be like, all right, just in case one thing doesn't work out, I have something else to do.
Wow.
That's been my nature. So I feel like whatever field I would have been in, I would have treated it the same way, like as a student, constantly learning, constantly evolving.
This sounds heady. This sounds intellectual. Are there, like, I've tried very hard in the last year. I have a word of the year every year, and last year it was feel. And so it was about kind of getting out of the head and into the body. And does that like make you think of anything? Do you feel like your choices and your actions come from a feeling or a plan?
A little bit of both. I mean, you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. So I don't plan so far. I plan for the day. I plan for opportunities, and like, I don't know 5 months later, even where I know where I am, because my job requires my schedule to be set way ahead in advance, but I don't know what my ambition will be, because I'm always trying a new thing. I'm always like in the flux. And that, I think, is my body. So the idea of being excellent is from my head, and recognizing opportunity is in my head. That's so crucial, because so many people are so in their heads that you miss opportunity when it comes in front of you. And opportunity is not going to break your door down. It may even be a small little knock. It's something that maybe you create for yourself. By recognizing opportunity, it could even be a person that you know that has an idea, or idea that you have that you've been sitting on and not working, thinking about it. There's a gap in the market and you recognize it. It's recognizing how you can propel yourself into your ambition. It's recognizing that you are ambitious. If you want to get somewhere, you've got to make a plan to work backwards. And then if it works out, at least that's great. If it doesn't work out, at least you gave it your best shot. But that's how I treat it. But every day when I walk out of my house or my bedroom, for now we don't walk out of our houses, but when I walk out of my room every morning and I have my cup of coffee, my plan is I look at my schedule for the day and I'm like, all right, this is what I'm doing. What do I want to be feeling at the end of the day? And I kickstart my day no matter what I am feeling like, even if I'm bogged down or if I'm tired or upset, I kick my work off. Like, if, say, for example, I was doing hot wings and I was dying, but I know that when I'm coming on to speaking with you, what your podcast requires and what this show requires, and it's my job to be able to deliver that to the best of my ability. And I take that attitude, which is my body, feeling a sense of providing the best that I can in everything that I do.
That's a really good bridge of the two, because it does take that, right? Because you can't, like Eckhart Tolle would say, like, be present right now. I'm like, I can't get anything done there. Like you can't, if you're not thinking about the
You
future
have to
and
do
not thinking about
both.
the past, you literally do
You have
nothing.
you have to do
You
both
have
and
to do
then
both.
give it up. Like you have to plan it. It's almost like when I go to movie set and I have to memorize my lines. I memorize my lines 3 4 days before. I don't do it the day of, never, or the night before if it's an important scene, because muscle memory is a very important thing. It, like, you put it in there and then you're free to sort of play with those lines. You're free to act because you already know the technique and the things that are supposed to come out of your mouth. So in the same way, you make a
Mm.
plan, a larger plan. Okay, this is where I want to get in a year, or this is where I want to be in the end of the year, or the end of the week, or whatever your time limit is. And figure out the plan of working backwards. If you want to buy a car, how much is the car going to be for? How do I break up my payments? How much do I need to earn to make sure I get this car? We all plan like that. That's how we have to plan our lives. And then
Mm.
let it be. And take every step
Yeah.
and try. Every rung should be an attempt at providing excellence in that one thing. And then if it works out, great. But it's never going to be bad because you've made a big picture plan and you're sort of following what's best for you.
That's
Yeah.
manifesting.
Yeah.
That's manifesting at the highest levels. Just set an intention and have a plan because you've now connected with the future self that has the
Right.
car or has the job or whatever it is that it, but then that element of detachment, that's the hard one. Like I feel like I live in the future so much that I feel like people tend to be one or the other. And I'm guessing you're probably a bit of a futurist, a future caster. And then there are people that live in the past and they have a relationship with their memories and they can't move beyond that. And sometimes the future vision doesn't allow you to be nimble because you're so attached to an outcome. But it's in that detachment moment where you can just go, and it is what it is, that you release then that grip on something having to be exactly
How
as you
can we
saw
have
it.
that
Is there
grip? I
something?
mean, we can't control anything but ourselves. And for any ambition or any goal that we have, it involves multiple people. Unless you're doing something alone.
Mhm.
And if you
Yeah.
don't depend on other
Yeah.
people, fine. You can have extreme like control and grip. If you depend on people, there's probability and there's chance of it not being according to what you want. And that's true for relationships, that's true for professional work, that's true for aims and ambitions. That we have to make a plan, but you can't have a death grip on it because then you're the one who's going to have, pain in your arms, and it's your body that's going to take a toll, not the thing. The thing is going to do what the thing is going to do.
Mhm. Do you have a story about some point in time where you did like hold on too tight, or an example of a story where you set that intention and it manifested in a totally unique way that you could have never seen? I mean, maybe Miss World was,
Yeah,
but
Miss World was never. How did that even happen? I still can't sometimes get over how that happened.
I can. I'm looking at you. I can see exactly how it happened, and I'm listening to you, so I can hear
Oh, you're
exactly
very
how that
kind.
happened.
But I think that, you know, um, yeah, I guess as much as I'm talking about we shouldn't have a death grip, a tight grip, I do sometimes because I expect a level of excellence and perfection from the things that I do. So I expect it from the people around me, and I hold on really tight to the
Mm.
pace at which I want the result, the pace at which I want that excellence. And if I were doing it, I could do it a certain way. But there are things that you can't control. And I have to check myself a lot of times saying that this is you holding on really tight. You can't control it. I have to check myself through the day multiple times too, where I'll see myself like really reacting to, oh, or getting frustrated or discouraged by something not happening the way I would want to. And then you have to sit back and say, all right, that's when the gratitude game really works. All right, I
Mm.
got this done today and I got that done today. And that happened. And this thing was amazing. So it's all right if like one thing didn't happen. It's not a testament to the whole. And you've got to keep it checks and balances with who you are and how you're behaving. It's never about anyone else. It's such an inward the, DVF, Diane von Fossenberg, always says the best relationship you have, the most important relationship you have, is the one with yourself, because no one else can control how you feel. If we build a habit of sort of looking inwards instead of, expecting joy because of people, or validation because of work, or then it's always going to be an unhealthy, you're going to be a hamster running but never getting anywhere. And it's okay, everyone goes through that phase, and I think we have to tune ourselves to sort of listening to our bodies, listening to our minds, checking ourselves, having conversations with ourselves, treating ourselves like we would treat our best friends, giving, like how we would give our best friends advice and being like, girl, you're behaving like that, girl, you're doing this, it's the same thing. You're your own best friend.
We can be really sweet to ourselves, sure. But in those moments, sometimes even when I do it, I'm like, it's sometimes uncomfortable. It's almost more comfortable more comfortable to be the critical one, to be the judgmental one, because you're always trying to excel or be better, do better. Or maybe it's just a habit. I don't know. I think I have those thoughts.
Why is it so hard for people to be compassionate and kind? It's like, it's literally human nature. Forget even ourselves. It's to other people. If,
it's true.
We can't, kindness is, we're so afraid, I think, as human beings, of getting hurt, of failing, of being rejected, of being, refused. Those feelings are so scary to us that I think we become like porcupines trying to protect our heart.
Sure.
In slapping away all the negativity, your energy is so tied up that you don't even know how to be nice to yourself. And by being nice to yourself, I don't mean, a face mask and a pedicure. I mean, like, actually not berating yourself for the choices you feel compelled to make.
I mean, it's so clear, and speaking to you and seeing you over the years, and diving a little deeper before the interview to know more about you, that there's such a clear strength and confidence, and we're all human. Look, I get it. Like, there's aspects always, right? But and so I relate to it in a way, and I'm just so curious what your experience is. Sometimes it's judged. Sometimes being a strong woman is has its ups and downs. What are your experiences with that, whether it's in the business world or in relationships?
I think strong women are, and still, unfortunately, quite an anomaly, because, we have to teach our daughters that it's okay to be tough and it's okay to be strong. And we have to also be, as women, 4 times stronger or harder or tougher in jobs where, there are not too many women, especially the kind of jobs we aspire to be in: business, in tech, in governance, in, high powers of position, high positions of power. And I think if you have that ambition, it's an anomaly. It's still not normal. It's still something that people look at and it's like, oh my gosh, she's strong. Why should that should be like, that should be such a normal thing, so that, if we teach our girls around the world that they don't have to conform to what society sort of expects women to do, whereas you conform to your individuality and not the expected, I would say, pressures that, the world has put on women in general. And that's changing. It's changing with conversation. It's changing with, people like you, people like me, having that conversation about it's okay to be vulnerable, but it's also okay to demand respect if you're not getting it. It's okay to demand opportunity if you're not getting it. It's okay to create that for yourself and ask for your rights and pull yourself out of circumstances that are defined for you. And, I truly have always believed that it's the responsibility of each generation to leave something in the world that's sort of better for the next one. Our children shouldn't have to inherit our battles. And this is a big battle for us females. and the position of women in our society, and being able to create and have opportunities, equal opportunities, equal pay, um, equal rights on our lives around the world. I think that's our generation's responsibility.
What do you think? I have some opinions about just sort of like what's going on in the world. And I feel as though there's a calling for a balance of masculine and feminine, not only within culture, but within ourselves, to cultivate this balance. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I believe that, I mean, what really is masculine and what really is feminine, and who's defined it? I believe in individuality. I believe that, everyone should be able to choose how they love, should be able to choose how they express, should be able to choose, um, you know, decisions in conform to what we've been taught. It should be, if you think about what, and I believe like God created the world, so we're not in tune or in sync with each other. Our minds are not telling us to have the same opinions. So why are opinions so herded? Why is herd mentality, like if someone says something, we have to agree to it and we have to conform? I feel like conformity is, it's so unfortunate in a beautiful world like ours, which individuality is so interesting to see the greatness that each human life can bring, the ideas that each human mind can create. And that should not ever be defined by gender, ethnicity, and these things, which like are not in your control. Like that's just how you're born. What is in your control is how you live your life and how you choose to, who you choose to be. And that should be the freedom we all look for.
I feel like this is sort of in you. So I want to ask you, like, how do you cultivate that? But I almost think this is such a natural thought for you.
I think so. I don't think about, like, I'll do the most feminine things and I'll do the most masculine things, and it's just confusing for people around me. And I get jokes all the time, like my closest friends are like, "You're basically a man," and like, other sometimes my friends would be like, "Never would expect you to do that," and it's so like girly, and but I'm not defined by either or. Like I do what I like.
So then my next question is, how do we cultivate that, right? Like how would, if you were giving advice based on sort of having a little bit more of an observer perspective of how you're able to access these aspects of yourself that are truly just individual to you and just true to yourself, then how can someone start to embody more of this uniqueness that is them without trying to put a label
I think
on anything?
it's a practice. It's not something, I mean, it's not something I knew in my 20s. It took me to be in my 30s. And with maturity, I think I started realizing that, I only have me for the rest of my life to keep me company. Everyone else is sort of, transient. And I think it's very, and meditation and Hinduism, I know for sure, teaches that. And a lot of religions sort of, and spiritual teachers talk about sort of letting go of the burdens of, that we build for ourselves. And it's basically practicing that. It's practicing and recognizing that you are your own nucleus. Like if you think about molecules, there's one nucleus and everyone else is sort of moving around you. You have your own protons, neutrons, like, sorry, science kids, I'm going to give you a science metaphor. And then you are your own nucleus, and the person walking in front of you, that person is his own nucleus, and you are your own nucleus. And it's not, we're going to interact with each other, we'll procreate, we'll, do more together. But at the same time, I'm in the center of my life and my choices. I think you start practicing that mindset, then you stop being defined by people's expectations of you, and you don't require validation from other people except yourself. And that's such a freeing, liberating thought. It's, if you practice putting yourself in that position every day, even for a couple of hours, you start feeling that way. You walk out of your morning, when you have your morning coffee, you're like, this is my life, and everything else, including my children, my family, my job, everything is because I am here. It all exists because, and give yourself that importance, because your life is important. Each life is a gift. And we've got to, understand how the gravity of that. and treat it with that kind of love and joy.
Because I would say that I have erred on the side of being codependent.
So have me too.
Oh, you're human. But you know, that being quite simply as in layman's terms, because it's such a like, you know, I heard codependency. I'm like, I'm not codependent. I don't need anybody. But it's the nuance. The nuance of it is that you rely on someone else or something else to make you happy.
That's
basically.
it.
And I remember starting to write down every day, like, okay, let's write down 5 things that I want to do for me today. And I was like,
Exactly.
Make him breakfast. Nope, that's not it. And it really was hard to like think of 5 things every day that I wanted to do for myself. But for me, that started to be the practice of like more of that autonomy, more of that nucleus sort of visualization of my day.
But it's totally hard, but you can still need people. You can still love wholeheartedly, because that's the only way to love, is to give. You know, you give fully, you love fully. If you want to make breakfast for someone every day, it's okay to make it as long as you want to do it. You see the difference. Did you want to do it, or did you do it because that'll make the other person happy and hence will give you validation and make you feel happy? That's the difference.
Right. I'm curious what your thoughts are. My therapist, she's had some real gems for me, as they do. And she said that you can love unconditionally, but relationships are conditional. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want my guy cheating on me, like those kind of conditions.
Right, exactly. So innately there's a condition, right? Innately there's a condition.
Definitely. I think by unconditional, I guess we've used unconditional as a word rather freely, but I think unconditional in that sense really means that, you know, I love you for everything you are. And if that includes, but I guess there is a but of, you know, but these are the things that don't work for me. If you're going to be in a relationship like that, people have their own various individual relationships, right? But I think they're definitely conditional, and it's okay for them to be conditional. But loving when you're in a relationship, I believe, again, like, you know, the train thing, people come in and out of your life. So everyone, as soon as my dad died, I realized, I was like, oh, no one's around forever. The person I thought that would always be cheering for me when I won every award, or would always be like, oh my gosh, you did this movie. Like, he used to get embarrassingly excited about things that, you know, that happened in my life. And suddenly there was silence, and that noise was gone. And I felt abandoned, alone. But it was death, and I couldn't be angry. I couldn't be mad. And then I realized that death is the extreme version of the transient relationships that we have in human life. What does forever really mean? How do you know? You have to do the best you can in the time you have with each other. And when you know that you gave it your best in that relationship, and you did everything you could to be right, to be happy, then you can very easily walk away with feeling a sense of lightness. You know, you'll reach a point in your heart where you will feel a sense of lightness, because you have to forgive yourself. It wasn't your fault. You know, some things don't work out, whether that's a relationship, whether it's a job. It's supposed to be in your life for just that duration, and you learn something from it, and then it's like a scar, you know. You wear it like a medal instead of something ugly.
You have really wise perspective, and I'm curious if you feel as though you have an awareness to what your purpose is.
I don't know what my larger purpose is. I just know that it's to be happy every day. And I think, you know, I'm grateful to have the gift of life. I'm very grateful to have the gift of my life. And I work every single day to make sure I better it. And I feel a sense of purpose in what I'm doing. My work gives me a big sense of purpose. It's my greatest pride and joy. It's self-made. I built it on my back, my blood, sweat, and tears. And, I take a lot of pride in it. So that gives me the largest sense of purpose is as every time I push the goalpost a little further, or every time I break a glass ceiling for myself, I'm just like, it makes me feel like waking up the next day and doing something else.
If you were to imagine and think about how you would be remembered, like how do you want people to remember you? What do you want to have accomplished or done that would leave your stamp on the world?
Well, I mean, on the world, I would hope that I'm remembered for having contributed to the arts. I've been doing it now for 20 years, and as a producer, as an entertainer, an actor, and all the business and all the things that I'm doing, I hope that I'll be remembered for having pushed the needle in the right direction, because it's been my quest. I always try to walk the path that, or push norm, not just for myself, but for people who look like me, girls, women, because I had to do a lot of that. It shouldn't be so hard to create opportunities. It shouldn't be so hard for us to get where we want to get, when it's so much easier for, a specific kind of people or a specific gender. So I hope to be remembered for having contributed to pushing the envelope in the arts.
When people read your book Unfinished, what do you hope they take away from it?
For people who know me, I hope they get to know me a little bit better, a little bit more than just a headline or a fashion meme. And I hope for people who don't know me that they see that, I was a young girl from an unassuming family in a small town in India, and I built a formidable career that I am proud of, that I wanted to achieve, that gives me a sense of stability and comfort in a career that's not stable, actually. We don't know where our next check's coming from. You have to hustle for the next job. But I feel a sense of competence in my abilities. It took me 20 years to get here, but I do. So I hope that for the people who don't know me, who read the book, see that if I can do it, anyone can.
I have no doubt that they will. And congratulations. Writing a book is such a...
Girl, it's so hard.
There's a lot that goes into it.
It's so hard.
I feel like you're a really cool girl, and I wish we could have done it in person, but...
We're definitely going to when the world, gets normal. You and I are both here, and we're definitely going to be able to sit together, have a cup of coffee, and chat, because I love talking to you. You're very insightful. It's really nice.
Yeah, thank you. So are you. I mean, you have an inner compass, an inner wisdom that's, more of an evolved old soul sort of soul, where you just have an inner knowing. You have an evolved consciousness that, is just a little bit more ready for the world.
Thank God. Otherwise, I would have buckled long time ago.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.